And I hope it always remains that way for all of you, for all of us. Not that I'm late every time, but certainly a lot of action in the system. And thank you, Pavanji, for holding out. Thank you, Vinodji, for giving me this opportunity to be here. Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Thank you, Mr. Menon. All the distinguished participants at this very important discussion and conversation at the 63rd Annual Convention of SIAM on making India more self-reliant, Atmanirbhar, looking at what we can do to promote exports, and generally the intention being that an industry which has today become the third largest ecosystem in the world, aspiring, I hope, to become the largest. Thanda hai aapka? Where is the aspiration of our industry? What does SIAM aspire to be? पवन जी ये आसार अच्छे नहीं लग रहे हैं मुझे. अच्छा, he's given a target. तो वैसे आप चुप हो गए हो. We should clearly aspire to be the world's largest auto industry, because clearly with 1.4 billion aspirational Indians, young boys and girls, I think by and large most families would today have a two-wheeler, all of them looking to go into the next level, maybe get a four-wheeler as they move up their economic prosperity, looking for upgrading their lifestyle, bigger and better cars. We have joined the club of countries in the world today where the basic needs, the aspirations of food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, education, the basic needs of our people are by and large being met, on the verge of being met. You have nearly 40 million or 4 crore families who didn't have a house earlier, now own their own house. They own it. Digital connectivity, road connectivity, getting electricity into every home, cooking gas connections. We are right now running a program by which water will come in every home through a tap, Nal Se Jal. Already about 600 million, 60 crore less privileged people are eligible for free health care. And going forward, we'll be looking for ways and means to expand this to make sure that nobody in the country is deprived of quality health care. So much so that I visited an ESIC hospital the other day, probably on the outskirts of Jaipur, if I remember correctly, which to my mind was one of the best hospitals I've ever visited, an ESIC hospital. And I remember in my days when I used to run a small forging unit back in Mumbai, we used to pay ESIC premium, but also take out a Mediclaim policy for all our workmen and staff, because nobody wanted to go to an ESI hospital. Things are changing, and we want them to change at a faster pace. So that is the new India that the people of India are all collectively working towards. And with this pace of change, making sure that people across the country, the remotest parts of India, see access to all the basic needs, we are surely going to see the aspirations rise, and rise at an exponential rate. with the internet connectivity and possibly a television in almost every home in the country. They are connected to what's happening in the rest of the world. And the natural next step, a little bit of a symbol of pride, a symbol of having arrived, will now move from a motorcycle, and pardon me those from the two-wheeler industry, I don't mean to hurt your business, but your business will grow on the back of more youngsters at a younger age looking for motorcycles. You'll probably start making motorcycles of greater power, and we'll have some, racing of motorcycles. We'll export our motorcycles to other parts of the world where that itself is a symbol or a matter of pride to have a Harley Davidson or a Norton or one of those really big machines. So each one of us will evolve. I mean, I still remember when we bought our first Maruti Suzuki. It was what, probably under a couple of lakhs. And when it was introduced, it was 45,000. 45, 50,000. Right? So we are also moving up the value chain. And my own sense is that we are going to see an exponential demand growth. We're going to see more and more of the middle classes looking for this symbol of having arrived, symbol of pride, this value proposition that every parent wants to offer his children. Increasing the demand for your goods, more and more demand for fancier gadgets, fancier products, which means the auto component industry will equally have unique propositions, new products coming in a big way. And all of this put together only shows us that the 3 Ds that we are very proud of are democracy, our demographic dividend, leading to significant demand, and diversity. These 3 Ds are going to be coming into play to help your industry grow faster. Diversity will also help with different tastes, different models will get traction across the country. You will get an opportunity to come out with new offerings. And clearly in this complex and dynamic world, those who remain abreast with the latest of technologies at competitive prices will surely grow much faster. But on the whole, on the aggregate, I'm one who's convinced that your industry has a very, very bright future. You are gradually also adopting self-sufficiency, Atmanirbharta in a big way. I'm told that your imports of components or products are not growing as fast as the overall growth of the industry. So import dependence has somewhat come down by 2 or 3%. Of course, I'm not a satisfied person on that score. Pavanji knows my views about it very well. And I hope you have in your conversation dwelled at length on the potential for increasing localization, something which was his baby as the chairman of the Scale Committee, which he kind of brought focus in the country on. That what are the critical areas or industries where we can localize quickly, and what the government and industry needs to do to encourage that localization at scale and in a speedy manner. And my own sense is some of this is more a matter of choice than a matter of availability, particularly in the auto industry. This 20-odd% dependence on imports that you still have 21-odd% is not uniform. If it was uniform, I could still understand that possibly India doesn't have all the technologies. I can still understand a little bit of the dependence on electronics as more and more indigenization gradually comes into play, and we see some of you inviting your collaborators, your suppliers to come and set up shop in India, particularly given our increasing capabilities, the talent and skill sets of our people. But we still have certain companies who by choice prefer to import. We still have certain companies who may not be themselves importing, and on their records they show greater degree of indigenization. But the moment we go down one or two levels into their supply chain, we find them still dependent on imports, often being dictated by the parent company from where this component supplier will source, the pricing at which it will be sourced. And I don't know how legal that is, but I personally think that there is a question mark on transfer pricing in that. There's a question mark on fair play, whether we are getting a fair deal between two countries. And I would urge all the players of the auto industry to introspect on this. I personally believe at some point government may also have to get into greater detail on this subject. It will be important for us also to know whether countries where Indian steel is not getting free access or adequate market opportunities should be permitted to send steel into India. It's possible government may also have to take retaliatory action if one finds that it's not a equal opportunity on both sides. Very often I'm told that we bring investments into India. Ladies and gentlemen, investments come into India because of the huge market. Investments come into India, but that doesn't mean that we have to continue to import goods which are otherwise available at very competitive prices and of very high quality within India, only because a particular company prefers to buy it from their supplier, sometimes in a non-friendly country. And I've seen this increasing trend, for those of you who are following this subject, that the investment comes from country X, but the components don't necessarily come from country X. They come from some other third country. And I'm given the statistics that, look, we have brought in investment, but we don't import from the country where the investment came from. And then I get my office to do a deep dive, and we find that they come from another supplier of the parent company in a third country, which is certainly not what is helping the Indian economy. So I would rather have a company get a larger market share in India, who is also helping create jobs in India, who is also helping create economic activity in India, who's enjoying the Indian market, and I have absolutely no problem in that. And wherever he requires, I have no problem in him importing a particular product of that quality which may not be available here. But where things are being unnecessarily imported, without India getting an equal opportunity in those countries, I would be tempted. I'm not making any announcements so that lest the media misunderstands me or your conference becomes another source of controversy for the rest of the day. But I am speaking as a concerned Bharatiya, a national concern which I am expressing to you, all of you, as my friends. I actually wanted to start by complimenting your industry, because you are one industry which has, while it has grown by leaps and bounds, but which has done India proud with the kind of offerings, the kind of confidence that you have displayed on the world stage. I remember in my interactions with the Auto Component Manufacturers Association, ACMA, the confidence with which the participants of or members of ACMA told me that we don't mind you allow imports from anywhere in the world, as long as we get access to those world markets. We have the courage of conviction to say that we can compete with the rest of the world. That is the new India that makes all of us proud. And that is what makes me believe that there is no reason why we should still be dependent on other countries for our components, for our steel. Our steel is second to none in the world. The rest of the countries are envious of our steel products. The qualities, the grades of steel that we make in it, the price at which we make steel in it. So my own request to all of you in SIAM could be captured in 3 or 4 short points. One, let's engage with the future with far greater self-confidence. आत्मविश्वास के साथ हम आगे बढ़े. Self-confidence in our abilities, self-confidence in our friends' abilities, the whole ecosystem that the auto industry, SIAM, ACMA, ATMA, all of you all represent. We need to trust the abilities of our ecosystem. And that will automatically lead us to localize much faster. Encourage localization even at the tier 2, tier 3 supplier level. And that will create jobs, that will create business opportunities, that will create economic activity within the country. I am not against imports per se. What I am not happy about is that we are becoming a conduit to import products which are available in India, high quality at competitive prices. But just because our parentage is of a particular genre or a country, it doesn't give us a license to import anything and everything, irrespective of alternates. And we are, of course, bringing in strict quality control standards, which I hope will ensure that we get only high quality products, whether in India or from abroad. Both scores, we are looking for high quality products. And possibly we may also need to look at products coming in at zero duty under the FTA more carefully to see whether there is a level playing field between our Indian suppliers and the countries from which these products are coming. If it's a fair play, we have equal access to those markets, then we are fine. But non-tariff barriers created by certain countries, written or unwritten, legal or through, in some cases, only a nationalist spirit by which they get together not to allow the imports from other countries, those are certainly areas of concern. And I do hope some of you in the industry will also start raising your voice, if not formally, because you may also be suppliers to these same companies, at least provide us with the information so that we can at least investigate whether our industry is getting an equal, transparent and open opportunity corresponding to what opportunities India is offering to our trading partners. I think Scale Committee should also once again apply their mind to assess what are the products we are importing, Pavanji. Could we look at tier 2, tier 3 suppliers who are import dependent and see whether they have some products which really need to be imported or where we can encourage greater degree of investment? Can we have a dialogue amongst ACMA and SIAM members to see whether we can support each other to expand trade within the membership of these two important organizations? You could add the tire manufacturers to that also. Can we look at encouraging some significant investments coming in on the electronic side so that India gradually becomes more self-sufficient? We've suffered in COVID. All of you have suffered the non-availability of adequate electronic components. Many of you have suffered even though you had collaborations or you have ownership of companies from the same countries from where we are dependent on chips or other electronic products. But you didn't get those products in India. They preferred to give it to first their companies overseas. We were almost last on the line. That should at least open the minds and cause concern for Indian managements to see what's happening in our ecosystem. I don't know what is the level of R&D we are doing in India. That could be another area where I would urge all of you to see whether we need to increase our own R&D, our design capabilities, our own efforts to come up with newer products, and see if we can become the sourcing hub for the rest of the world. And maybe create a few champion sectors within our economy. For example, I think on earth-moving equipment, India has been able to do reasonably well, but should be now looking at pole position, looking at how we can do even bigger business on, earth-moving equipment. Two-wheelers, I would think we would be the world's largest. We are. And I think gradually we are moving into electric in a big way in two-wheelers. We are also very concerned about one other subject which can help us gain greater market share and possibly support industry in other parts of the world, is the skilling, upskilling, retraining of our workforce. And I see tremendous potential there for our young boys and girls to get work opportunities both in India and other parts of the world. I wanted to appeal to all of you. And I think collectively all of you must be engaging, what, 4-5 million people in your companies? Would that be the level of employment in the membership of SIAM plus ATMA and ACMA? 30 million in the entire supply chain. I'm going to make a proposition for your kind consideration, and I would even say I would like to request you to see if each one of you could consider maybe up to 10% of your workforce coming in as apprentices in your companies. Say Mahindra's or Tata's or Maruti or whoever, Ashok Leyland. Whether you can take in 10% as apprentices for 2 years, 3 years. Give them training in certain special skill sets. And then create a certification program. Let SIAM, ATMA have accreditation or a body which will actually go and verify and validate your training program. Something like the German auto industry did for their technical manpower. What is it called? There's a word for it. Mittelstand or something. Something what the Germans did to create a pool of talent in their country. And I'm told at times the talent generated through this 2 or 3 year apprentice program is more valuable in their country than the engineer himself. Because he is hands-on, he knows his job best, He's run through a whole 3-year program with focused attention on the subject that he's being trained for. And he becomes a very valuable resource for your own company as you grow, for our industry as India grows, and at some point for the world at large. And with the national education policy which we have introduced now, and the liberal educational systems or skill development systems that are sought to be promoted through this NEP, I think this will be the way in the future to get better quality production in India, better efficiency and output, better productivity, and ultimately all of this resulting in higher quality standards. And that'll only happen when the entire industry comes together collectively and aims for it. Maybe we could begin with looking at if we could all of us collectively have 1 million such apprentices or trainees whom we run through a proper formal program in each one of our companies. The bigger companies can take the bigger lot, the smaller component companies can take smaller numbers. But I see tremendous potential, and why I see potential in this is because you are in a high precision technical industry, point one. Point two, they will also help in your production capabilities. So they'll contribute to your output. Point three, many of you have international collaborations, and the others are themselves very large conglomerates or MNCs in their own right, Indian MNCs. So you have those systems. I mean, Tata's today, their management system is amongst the best in the world. The whole management program that their engineers or their new employees go through. And I'm sure each one of you and your parent companies would have similar training programs or such courses which you can run in your company. And the most important element, ladies and gentlemen, will be in this, that the person who's coming in for skill development will also take home some income. Otherwise, for a young lad today to spend 2 or 3 years, particularly when he comes from a neo-middle class or a less privileged background, to spend 2 or 3 years to get training of high quality with no income corresponding, rather on the contrary, possibly paying for the skill development. Or even if the government pays for that skill development, the fact that he is also a bread earner, he also has to earn some money, can be taken care of through these apprentice programs or training programs that you all can craft in your own organization. And to my mind, that will be one of the greatest service that the captains of industry before me can do, that all of you can contribute to when we talk about nation building, when we talk about the collective effort of all of us in crafting a new future for India as we enter into, as we have now just completed 1 year of our Amrit Kal, 1 year of the 25 years during which we want to take India from a $3.5 to a $35 trillion economy. When we are creating the foundational building blocks of this 25-year journey to make India a developed nation, and we all agree that we will all be a participant with a sense of duty to make this happen, I think there can be no greater satisfaction, no greater contribution than to help somebody else, help a few families, help collectively 1 million families in the next 3 years become self-reliant, themselves become Atmanirbhar, themselves becoming contributors to the new India, to a developed India, and then ultimately also be contributing, if you find them suitable or you need them, for your own growth. And it will ultimately help your industry do better in the years to come. So it's a great moment in time where we have all assembled here today. It's a matter of great pride for us that India's presidency of the G20 has been one of the most successful presidencies in its 15-year history. The fact that India set new records, particularly in very difficult circumstances where there was almost near 100% expectation that there won't be an outcome. For the first time in a G20 leaders summit, we got an outcome out on the day one, substantive outcome with significant deliverables. I remember at Rome in 2021, when I used to be the G20 Sherpa, we were struggling for 4 or 5 nights. Not a single night I came to my hotel room before 4 or 5 in the morning, only to start again by 9, struggling to come out with an outcome. And this is before the Ukraine war, mind you, 21. Situation didn't have the kind of broken world that we are living in today. And we finally got an outcome, an agreed outcome, half an hour or 45 minutes before the Leaders Summit, the last session of the Leaders Summit. So it's a matter of great pride for each one of us in this room, for the 140 crore Indians who all saw in this G20 presidency a people's G20. Let us take these lessons of a emerging, confident, powerful India, an India which is today becoming more and more relevant for world growth, an India which today wants to work with the rest of the world from a position of strength, confident, wants to achieve extraordinary results. An India which is entering into new FTAs to leverage bigger and better and newer markets. I can only conclude by saying that as we proceed towards our journey in the Amrit Kal, from the 5th largest economy to the 3rd largest economy, and which will happen in the next maybe 4 years. Ms. Geeta Gopinath's comments I was hearing, she's talking of 27, 28, which is 4 years from now. As we prepare ourselves to become a developed nation by 2047 with an economy which adds $30 trillion in the next 24 years, $30 trillion would be the single largest addition to any economy in such a short span of time in the history of mankind. It's our moment under the sun. I can't even say the sky is the limit, because now our limit has gone beyond the sky. Our aspirations reach the moon and now want to go to the Lagrange point with Aditya L1. This aspiration, this desire to achieve more, this desire to work for the benefit of 140 crore Indians is best articulated by quoting from Swami Vivekananda's teachings, the powerful message that he has given to this country over 100 years ago, when he said, and I quote, "If the mind is intensely eager, if the mind is intensely eager, everything can be accomplished. If the mind is intensely eager, everything can be accomplished. Mountains can be crumbled into atoms." Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, sir. It's always a pleasure to listen to you, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and perspective with us. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite President ACMA and Chairman Sona Constar, Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, to kindly deliver the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, Dr. Goenka, Vinodji, Rajesh. Thank you for your address to both Honorable Minister and Dr. Pawan Goenka. It has made it very easy for me to make a vote of thanks because of the alignment in your thought process. We really appreciate the guidance that you've given us, the effort that you put into making sure that we keep growing and we keep pushing ourselves. Last year, the Honorable Minister at the ACMA session gave us an export target, and this year Dr. Goenka has increased that target. So it just makes our life a little harder every time I come here, with you guys addressing us, with both of you. But I think, the industry is in a great space. You're right in terms of the investment we need to make in technology, the investment that we need to make in people, in skilling. I think the minister said it very nicely, engage with the future with a greater self-confidence. And that's really how we need to look at where our industry is and where we can be. Whilst we're, the third largest and we have aspirations to become the largest, we have a long way to go.
Miles to cross before we get there. However, the more we invest in technology, the more we work together with our supply chain,